play any video game, you of course need a console, and Skylanders is no different. But Skylanders is just one of those games where it's on almost every console imaginable. So in this video, we're going to be going through each and every console and sort of giving the pros and cons of Skylanders on that console, what it has to offer, the games, the pricing, all of that. So without further ado, let's jump right into it with probably the most iconic console for Skylanders. The Wii is iconic for many reasons, but it was also the console that Skylanders sold the absolute best on. Skylanders pretty much sold the best on the Wii for the first 4 games, which is pretty impressive considering some of them had very inexcusably bad graphics. But the Wii actually only had the first 4 games, and then for Superchargers, we got Superchargers Racing, which is sort of a downgraded, only strictly racing mode, and it does not have any of that core platformer gameplay. I will say the Wii has the definitive version of Spyro's Adventure, which is nice. It is the only console that has the non-expec version, which is a big plus to some people. I think those differences are pretty overblown, but basically the Wii was the console that Spyro's Adventure was originally developed for, and then a company named Expec had to pretty much port the game over to 360 and PS3 later on, but the Wii got the OG version, which is the best version according to most people. The main issue with the Wii is that the graphics for Swap Force and Trap Team are really atrocious. They're really bad. Some of the worst graphics I've really seen on the Wii in general. Like, they're pretty inexcusable, and this is pretty much added on top of a bunch of glitches and just possible complete crashing of your Wii when you play Swap Force and Trap Team. It is not good for Swap Force and Trap Team. That's pretty much the Wii's biggest drawback. But for Spyro's Adventure and Giants, the Wii is a great console that I actually think is probably the best way to play those 2 games. I will say that the Wii also is very cheap as far as the games go. It is probably the console that is the absolute cheapest to get all of the Skylanders games on. Except for, of course, Imaginators, because it did not even release on the Wii, considering it was so old at that time and so outdated. It really would have been impossible to port Imaginators over to the Wii, a game that is just so advanced and so, like, what, it came out in 2016, 10 years after the Wii, which was already super underpowered for the time. It would just be impossible. So Imaginators you can't even get on the Wii. But overall, the Wii is a good console, especially for the nostalgia. Just the later games are very glitchy, and you can't even get technically the full version of Superchargers or Imaginators at all, but it does take advantage of the universal portals, which are pretty nice. They aren't too expensive. The portal that does not specify what console it's for, that will work with your Wii. Then moving on to the Wii's predecessor, we have the Wii U. This is the console that got pretty much every single Skylanders game. However, it is worth noting that the Wii U version of SSA is exclusive to Japanese. So unless you speak Japanese, and it is already going to be a much more expensive version than pretty much any other version of SSA to get it on the Wii U. So this is definitely a major drawback as far as SSA and the Wii U go. I will say Giants through Imaginators are all very solid, and they work well on the Wii U. There really aren't any complaints that I have. Also, a big plus is the Nintendo exclusive characters. This is a console where in multiple games on this console you can play as Donkey Kong and Bowser, which is really cool. You can use them in Superchargers and Imaginators with no problem whatsoever. It is also backwards compatible with all the Wii versions of the games. So if you want to experience the Swap Force Wii version and the Swap Force Wii U version, or the Giants Wii version, the Giants Wii U version, you 100% can through backwards compatibility. It all works, and the portals work. This once again takes advantage of the universal unspecified portal, which is very helpful once again because it is one of the cheaper ones, and it is pretty much the more common portal type, which is very helpful for Wii U users. Also, the Wii U gamepad has exclusive features that no other console has. I'm pretty sure the only way to see how much time you've played as a certain Skylander, at least in the later games, is on the Wii U gamepad. I know that Swap Force shows you how much time you play as a specific Skylander on the gamepad, which is really cool. No other console really lets you do that. Also in Trap Team, you can see the villain inside the trap, which I also think is really cool. The Wii U gamepad adds some cool features to Skylanders. Also, the games just are not too expensive in general. Neither are the portals. I really think that the Wii U is a solid console for Skylanders. And solid might really be an understatement. I think the Wii U might just be the definitive console for Skylanders. I mean, come on, most of the games you can literally play 2 separate versions of. You get the Nintendo exclusive characters, you get exclusive gamepad features. All the games look pretty good on the Wii U. I think the Wii U is just great overall for pretty much every aspect of Skylanders. And then we look at Nintendo Switch, which is questionable to say the least. The Nintendo Switch only has Imaginators, which right off the bat, this is one of the most hated games in the franchise without question. So it's already a little bit shaky for the Switch. And then you realize it doesn't even utilize the portal. Some people may think this is a cool gimmick, others may hate on the Nintendo Switch for this. But personally, I don't think it's a big issue. It kind of has its own gimmick, but it does kind of take away that Skylanders portal magic. You're just like putting it on the Joy-Con. Like, it is kind of weird to use the Switch version of Imaginators. Also, the Imaginators Switch version, I have heard from multiple reputable sources that it is the worst version of the game because it has a lot of weird glitches. Some of the Skylanders don't even save in the in-game menu, which, like, come on, Activision, you had one job and you mess it up with the Switch version. I don't really know how that happens. And then the cherry on top is that this game is non-digital, so the only way you can get it is through a physical copy, which has made it the rarest Switch game, at least the rarest Switch game that was mass-produced physically, because it goes for like $150 now. So I don't know why you'd spend $150 to get the worst version of a game that is pretty much already hated by the community on a console that doesn't even take advantage of the main gimmick of Skylanders. I think it's a really bad investment. I think the Switch is probably the worst console for Skylanders, and it's not really close. Then when we look at the Xbox 360 side of things, it gets a lot better because the Xbox 360 does have every single Skylanders game, and they also all look pretty decent. Every single game from Spyro's Adventure to Imaginators looks and works great on the Xbox 360. This is a console that I know a lot of people grew up playing Skylanders with, and I'm glad to say it still holds up. I honestly think the Xbox 360 is a great way to play pretty much every Skylanders game. Spyro's Adventure is the X-Spec version, which some people may have a problem with, but honestly, I think the differences between the X-Spec and the Wii version of SSA are really overblown. It's not too different of an experience. You'll still have fun with it if you like SSA. There really aren't any major issues with the Xbox 360. It's kind of like the standard platform. I'd say it's pretty much as general as you can get. Has every game works fine, no major complaints. It is worth noting though that the portals are no longer universal on Xbox. When you use the Xbox 360, you are forced to get a portal that works with the Xbox 360. You'll be specified on the bottom of the portal if this is the case. The good thing though is these aren't too expensive. They are really, I would say, about the same price as the original universal portals. So won't really be too big of a deal for you to go out and buy these, especially since the games themselves are pretty cheap. These Skylanders games on Xbox 360 really aren't too expensive. None of that, there aren't really any outliers either. They're all pretty much like $10 a piece, and the portals aren't too bad either, and they're pretty much, once again, on the same level as the universal portals for the Nintendo and PlayStation consoles. Then moving forward a generation, we get the Xbox One. Now, the big issue with this is that you do not get Spyro's Adventure or Giants. Those are just not available on the Xbox One whatsoever. You cannot play them on the Xbox One. You only get the last 4 games. If you don't like the first 2, which is, it's kind of hard to find someone in the Skylanders community that just hates the first 2 games for no reason. If you don't like them at all, then this really isn't an issue for you. You'll be able to play the last 4 with no problem. Except, there is a problem. You have to buy the Xbox One portal, which if you want to be able to play all 4 of the last 4 games, you will need the Trap Team portal, which the Xbox One Trap Team portal goes for about $60 to $100. Anywhere in that range, I see it sell for. It is kind of insane. It costs a lot of money to get this portal. Of course, you could pretty much ignore this issue by only playing Swap Force Supercharged and Imaginators and playing Trap Team Mounted for console, but if the Xbox One is all you've got, you're kind of stuck paying this. Also, the games are pretty expensive on the Xbox One. The games really, the prices kind of vary, but Trap Team is like $35 and Imaginators is like $15. It does really add up in price when you get to the Xbox One. But the way this is all countered, or the best way the Xbox One could counter this, is by having some amazing graphics. The graphics you get on the Xbox One are pretty much peak. They're the best it's going to get. So the Xbox One should definitely get some points for that. But there are major drawbacks with the pricing of not only the portals, but also the games. Then moving up to the most modern console thus far, we have the Xbox Series X. Really, there aren't any updated graphics or anything. It's not like Activision went back and made a patch for the Xbox Series X version of the Skylanders games. I think they're pretty much past that at this point. So it pretty much is all just the exact same as the Xbox One. The pricing, the performance, everything. Maybe it'll get a little bit faster load times, but that's really the only noticeable difference. And for the most part, you can barely notice that too. So I would say the Xbox Series X is for the most part the exact same as the Xbox One, except it is obviously that little bit more modern and faster loading times. Now finally jumping over to PlayStation, we have the PlayStation 3, which once again has all 6 games. However, it does have the same X-Spec version of Spyro's Adventure as the 360, which means some features might not be the exact same, the game might not feel the exact same, the last level does have that one weird issue, but honestly, the differences are very negligible if you ask me, and sometimes it's even hard to just notice them in the first place. The games on the PS3 are not too expensive, I will say. I think these are all pretty cheap. They go for about the same as the 360, the Wii U, something like that. They are not too expensive at all. The PS3 also has good graphics. I think the graphics are on par with the Wii U and the Xbox 360, so they're nothing too crazy. They aren't like top of the line graphics, but they're good. The PS3 graphics, they'll get the job done. They'll work. I think the games look pretty nice. And then, of course, the PS3 also does take advantage of that universal portal. So if you played on the Wii and now you're upgrading to a PS3, your old portal will work, which is very nice. I definitely appreciate this universal portal compatibility across PlayStation and Nintendo. It is amazing to see, and it helps out a bunch. The PS3 is definitely a solid console, but doesn't do anything too crazy to stand out. However, it's just good overall. I would say this is definitely a trooper when it comes to consoles for Skylanders. Then moving up to the PlayStation 4, it is honestly kind of similar to the Xbox One, but with some key differences. First of all, it has the same 4 games as the Xbox One. These consoles came out at pretty much the same time, so they have these same 4 games, being the last 4 in the franchise. Also, the graphics are just pretty beautiful. They're, of course, on par with the Xbox One, I'd say. I think it's pretty much indistinguishable between the two. The graphics look absolutely amazing, and I'm very happy with how they look. They just look pretty much perfect on the PS4 and the Xbox One. The big issue with the PlayStation 4 specifically, though, is that the games are very expensive. To get all of the games, it'll probably cost you $150 to $200. Of course, you can mitigate some of this by just getting the discs or something else like that, or buying lots, but really, Supercharged and Imagineers are like $20 each, and then Trap Team and Swap Force can be like $60 to $80 each. It can get absolutely crazy for these games, but the one place that it is better in is the portals, because the portals, once again, it is that amazing Wii U, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 universal portal that will work with any console and PC, which is very helpful. So this will be very nice, as you won't have to buy a portal for $80 like the Xbox One, which is where PlayStation 4 shines. But of course, the main drawback is just how expensive those games are. So the PlayStation 4, I think, is honestly a good console if you already have it, but the games are going to be very expensive, so maybe just get the later two, because Imagineers and Supercharged are only like $20, which isn't too bad, especially considering you can get that universal portal for pretty cheap. And then, of course, with the modern generation, again, we have the PlayStation 5, which just is pretty much the exact same as the PS4, with some faster loading times from the SSD and just that modern hardware advantage for all that goofy stuff that no one really cares about. So that's pretty much it for PS5. I don't personally have any of the DS line, but Skylanders actually did have games on the 3DS. I really don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about this, because I've really never experienced any of these games or portals or anything of that sort, so I will leave that for some sort of future video, but they are completely different, so maybe I'll get back to it in the future, but for now, I really feel very unqualified to talk about the 3DS games. It's also worth noting there are several emulators on computers for consoles that can run Skylanders. I've personally used Dolphin, RPCS3, and Cemu, and those have all worked great for me, but I know that there might be a few others out there. I'm not going to go too in-depth into emulators in this video. I might save those for a future video if you guys would like to see how to play Skylanders on your PC, but let me know in the comments down below. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and it is cool to see just how many consoles Skylanders was on and just the differences between all of them. Just from like back in the day, how they released what games got released on what consoles, all the way to modern prices, to see how much some games have skyrocketed in price, like Imagineers on Switch and Swap Force on PS4, and how the portal compatibility works between all of them, and how some portals are way more expensive than others. It's a really cool thing to see, which I can really appreciate. It does bring some life to the franchise, even in modern day, and sort of keeps the market alive. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this was somewhat informative for you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye, everybody.